Hi guys, welcome to my channel. It's Nicole from Dogo Argentino, USA. In the recent news, we have heard lots about COVID-19, which is a zoonotic virus that is sweeping the planet. Both the CDC and the WHO, World Health Organization, as well as President Trump, have recommended that individuals, businesses, and communities prepare for the spread of this virus. When thinking ahead for emergency situations, many people consider what their own family, friends, and loved ones need, but they neglect their fur children. I said it, I'm concerned about my Dogo Argentinos. This video is going to be a serious look at what you might do to help prepare your Dogo Argentino for an emergency. Some people assume that your dogo can eat emergency rations. This is often not the case because many emergency rations have an extremely high salt content that would be toxic to dogs. While some Dogo Argentinos most certainly can and will hunt, others who do not have fine hunting instincts and no experience hunting would not do as well. Modern-day Dogo Argentinos may need to be considered just as other family members, and we are going to look at some of the ways that you can help prepare specifically for an emergency of the COVID-19 variety. Of course, we all want our pets to be assets, not handicaps in an emergency situation, and this video is going to touch upon some ways that you can help your Dogo Argentino with mental toughness so that he or she is ready to be a protective guardian and a hunting companion rather than a liability in an emergency. Let's talk about the first thing that requires only patience and time, training. It is extremely important that you have an obedient dog in an emergency situation. You don't want your dog to reveal you to hostiles. You don't want your dog to be considered a liability by police or other first responders. So let's talk about some of the commands that you absolutely must know. You definitely want your dog to come when called, especially under trying circumstances, such as if there are loud sirens or gunshots. You want your dog to be able to sit where you place him or lie down where you place him without moving, so sit, stay, or down stay, again, so that you can not reveal yourself to hostiles or simply to keep him and your family safe. It is very helpful if you can teach your dog not to bark or to bark on command. These can be very, very great assets in an emergency situation. It's very important that your dog be able to heel, particularly in large crowds. If there are large crowds of people moving from place to place, you want your dog by your side at all times. It's important that the dog be responsive to a command like give or drop. Give or drop. Give would be it's giving something in its mouth to you. Drop, meaning that it's touched something you don't want it to have, like roadkill or tainted meat. Let's talk about a few things you can do to help desensitize your dog in emergency situations. First, it's really important that you expose the dog to gunshots. This is a very, very common thing that might happen in a pandemic situation that goes badly. Another thing that it might hear on the regular, sirens and loud noises like firecrackers or fireworks. Things that imitate explosions might be an important thing to desensitize the dog. Obviously, for any of those things, you can simply buy a siren and slowly over time play it. You want to start at a lower level than you can actually hear and then amp it up because dog's hearing is much more sensitive than our own. Gunshots, take your dog out, shoot some target practice, let it hear the noise. For explosions, obviously you can shoot off bottle rockets, firecrackers, as long as you do it in a safe manner. It's going to give the dog some resistance to noise sensitivity. and traffic sounds, there's plenty of videos on YouTube with desensitizing noises like cars, traffic, dogs barking, other animal sounds, sirens, screaming, yelling, children. There's a lot of videos like that. You can either buy some or you can listen to them. Again, always start at a very, very low level and move it up. Start on, if your television has a scale of sound, start on 1 before you hit 100. The idea is that you hopefully don't get the ear twitch, which is the acknowledgement of the noise. And then you move it up till you get that and then pick 1 below. So if you get an ear twitch at 4, put the sound at 3, play it for about an hour a day, every other day, and then slowly move up. And you're just slowly over time building that desensitization to unusual noise. That is such an asset in an emergency situation. Just as you might want to have a bug out bag with supplies in it, you should prepare one for your dog. And there are certainly backpacks that your dog can haul its own stuff, sold on Amazon and other sites. You want to consider your dog in several ways. First in first aid, then in food and water, and toys and training treats. Currently, with the CDC-19, the longest quarantine I have seen is 1 month. However, I consider it very wise to plan for you, your family, and your dogo for a minimum of 3 months, because even if the quarantine is lifted after 30 days, there is going to be an interruption in the supply chain, meaning that even if you could go out and about in your town, you may not find the supplies you need. So in terms of sheltering in place, you want to have a 3-month supply of food, water, medication, toys, treats, waste disposal bags, waste disposal gloves, anything that you would consume in your daily life, you'd like to have ideally a 3-month supply of that, as well as essential items packed in the dog's backpack for a bug out bag. I would consider leashes or collars that are made out of paracord simply because they are extremely handy. And it's just another way that you can carry something that you need anyway. As far as bowls, I would definitely consider silicone collapsible bowls. Silicone both because they are non-porous and don't harbor germs. Collapsible because they take up less room in a pack. Some people would like to have an extra can opener, specifically to use for canned dog food if you tend to feed that or wish to feed that, and so that that dog can opener is just for that dog and not for human cans as well. Additionally, you might want to have a camelback for the dog to carry, either for your own water or its water. If you live in terrain that is very, very rough, either in an urban setting or in a country setting, you might want to have dog boots, because a dog that is not used to walking around rough surfaces can very quickly become sore on the feet. Not to mention that the boots provide protection from contact with germs. Now remember, COVID-19 is a zoonotic disease, and a zoonotic disease is basically one that humans can give to animals and animals can give to humans. COVID-19 is suspected to have started in the bat population, and the theory is that a bat was eaten by a pangolin, which is a rare animal, and that is a delicacy in China, and that's how it jumped into the wet market in the Wuhan province of China. So dog booties, twofold: protecting the paws, keeping germs out from in between the toes. Some dogs might want to have dog clothing. You could consider a dog rain jacket or a dog warm jacket, depending on the weather, the distances you expect to have to travel, the conditions under which you have to move. I would also advise you to consider using items that are going to blend in more than stand out. It's already going to be very, very tough to blend in a white dog, but you could use army green, black, camo. Any of those things are going to be more blendy than not. Supplements. It doesn't hurt to have a supply of dog vitamins, especially if the dog's food supply is going to be spotty for 3 months, to have some vitamins to help keep him in excellent health. You want your Dogo Argentino to be able to protect you, to guard you, to hunt with you. You don't want him falling weak from a lack of quality nutrition. Something I think is really important that absolutely has to go in any bug out bag is documentation. You want to make sure you have proof of his licensure, proof of his vaccines, especially rabies, You want to have a veterinary medical record proving that your dog is not a stray, that it's had adequate medical care. You don't want to give anyone a reason to think that that dog is a host of a virus. I don't think it's a bad idea to have a medical record that also concerns the dog in terms of any special needs. Perhaps it's diabetic, perhaps it's deaf. Anything that can be documented by a vet is going to be very, very helpful. And this is one instance where I think having a deaf dog could be a certain benefit, because if you are in the thick of chaos, the dog is going to be less sensitive to noise, obviously, if it's deaf. However, don't think that it isn't going to react, because it will most certainly feel vibration. If your dog has special dental needs like tooth care, you might want to carry a small dog toothbrush, dog toothpaste, something to attend to its teeth. I certainly think dog nail clippers are a must, along with flea and tick care. And it's really important, in my opinion, to have a 3-month supply of flea, tick, and heartworm medication, especially if you think you are not going to shelter in place. If it becomes too dangerous to be in your residence and you need to be on the move, protecting your dog from those things are very important. We may remember that during the Black Death of Europe, fleas were actually the transmitters of the virus. So I think having flea, tick, and heartworm medication is important. And I'm sure any vet, these are all prescription medications, any vet would give you a 3-month extra supply if you explained your concern with COVID-19. You might want to have a dog carrier if you intend to bug out by vehicle. You might want to have an additional harness that has lots of clips on it, some carabiner clips that you can clip other things like thermoses or additional tools. Make sure your leashes are in good condition, your collars are in good condition, your harnesses are in good condition. The last thing you want is an old leather collar snapping because it has been dried out by exposure to water or sun or any of those things. A small bottle of Dawn dish detergent is excellent to kill skunk smell. Also, it kills fleas and ticks. It does have to be the Dawn variety. You might want to carry a dog tie-out so that if you make camp at night, you can tie out the dog. Chews for anxiousness. A little bully stick might be nice. You might want to give it a favorite type of toy that's a toy that it purposely destroys because it helps curb anxiety. Any kind of ear cleaning medication might be an important thing to add. Cotton balls and Q-tips can help with small wounds, along with veterinary dressing, which is a dressing that sticks to itself but not to fur. And of course, it might be very important to have a muzzle. The only way you might get through a checkpoint without someone putting down your animal is having it muzzled so it is not a threat to others. Some additional first aid supplies besides the medication for flea, tick, and heartworm, along with any special concerns like diabetes, might include Vaseline, cotton balls, Q-tips, a small set of sutures, veterinary wrap, aspirin, the buffered kind, rubbing alcohol, witch hazel, Benadryl, antibiotic ointment, hot spot spray, Pedialyte for the electrolyte hydration, tweezers, needle with stitching thread, and by needle I do mean a surgical needle, Pepto-Bismol, Imodium AD. You definitely want a thermometer because you don't want to share your thermometer with your Dogo Argentino, considering that dog thermometers generally go in the butt. So let's talk about the pros of caring for your dog through an emergency like COVID-19. Obviously, this dog is imposing and it is a guardian. It will have much keener senses. It is going to have an inclination to guard. If you've hunted with your dog, it's going to have an inclination to hunt. These can be invaluable, especially if you are on the move or even if you shelter in place. Your dogs can help keep you warm. There is something to be said for a 3-dog night. That can be extremely important in cold climates or when temperature control and electricity is off. Dogs are excellent therapy. They provide emotional support in a crisis and can be very comforting, especially to families with children. Dogs obviously provide an early detection system for strange people and animals, which can be an invaluable tool in an emergency crisis. I know that my Dogo Argentinos would without question give their life for my own, and therefore it is important to me that I plan for their survival and well-being in a hostile emergency situation. Now bear in mind, instinct is not the same as experience. Instinct means you have a natural talent for it. Experience means you know what to do when things go wrong. So hunting with a dogo that's never hunted before. It's going to have instinct, it isn't going to have experience. However, I know the dogo breed, you know the dogo breed. They are courageous above all else, and I do feel that almost all dogos would hunt if the situation demanded it. Let's talk about some of the cons of having your pet. Obviously, if someone decides that your pet is a threat, you may end up watching your pet being taken away from you, put down, destroyed. What would you do if there was a quarantine that meant you couldn't leave your house? How would you exercise and clean up after a dog if you had to stay in your home? That is a huge con. You're going to have to split your rations, your food, your water, if you don't plan ahead for that dog. It can be a bummer if your Dogo Argentino draws the attention of hostiles in a situation where you want to hide and be camouflaged. A dog with its natural guardian instincts, if it barks or growls or in other way moves and you're trying to hide, that can be a huge negative because they may know exactly where you're at. Now, talking about hunting again, dogs have an instinct to hunt, certainly particularly Dogo Argentinos, but what if they scare off the game? What if they chase the rabbit and they don't catch it? It can be a challenge to take an untrained hunting dog hunting. So it isn't a natural win just because the dog has an instinct to hunt. It may end up scaring the game away. Now, I've heard lots of anecdotal evidence of packs of Dogo Argentinos being able to take down a deer on their own. I don't know if those are true because I don't let my dogs chase deer, but it is something to think about. Things that might scare away game: urine marking, excessive barking, just running around aimlessly, because many Dogo Argentinos are so driven to exercise that they could just exercise their way into scaring every rabbit, every game fowl, every deer away from you, and then there is nothing in the environment because they're going to have a predator scent, particularly if they're urine marking a lot, if they're barking, if they're running around aimlessly, not trying to pick up a scent. So there is a negative. It could be a very negative thing if the dog is not experienced in hunting. Or conversely, if the dog is not ready to basically put up with either gunshots or proper bite holds. So it can be a negative. I hope you have found this video helpful. One thing I would like to point out, most dog food, although it is not my preferred method of feeding my dogs, does store extremely well. You can get some 5-gallon food-safe pails and some Gamma pail lids with some oxygen remover packs. Put the dog food in the pail, put the oxygen pack on top, put the Gamma lid down, and it's going to extend the life. Again, I recommend for COVID-19 that you have a 3-month supply of food and water for each dog separate from your family. Do bear in mind that supplements are a good idea, some extra treats, some extra training, some extra toys, and think about what you're going to do if you are in a quarantine situation where you are not allowed to walk the dog. Are you going to put the dog down? Are you going to shelter in place, understanding that that dog needs to have an area to relieve itself? Are you going to let the dog go? You know, whatever choice you make is appropriate for you and your circumstances, but it is something to think about, particularly as COVID-19 has spread to many countries outside of China, including Italy, Iran, the United States, and other places. Dogs are part of the family, and Dogo Argentinos make excellent family members. I hope you found this video useful. Please tell me in the comments what you plan to do if there is an extended quarantine in your location with COVID-19. I would love to hear any tips or tricks you have about taking care of a waste problem if you are unable to walk your dog due to a quarantine order. Thank you so much. As always, have a Dogo-tastic day. This is Nicole with Dogo Argentino USA, preparing for the worst.